Here's how to unlock every early game feature in Monster Hunter Wilds. And by the way, early game refers to low rank, if that helps you understand, as there are a ton of features in high rank, but that's for another time. Let's show you what you can unlock. Let's start off with side missions. These are the yellow icon that start to appear above certain characters in the game. Now, while it says side missions, and in most games they're not really as useful as you may think, in this game, side missions can lead to crazier unlocks that have to deal with important features in Monster Hunter Wilds. On top of that, they are going to raise your hunter rank later on in the game, so you're going to want to do these. The next one we're going to talk about is optional quests. Whenever you have defeated a monster in the main story, if you go back to Alma and select her and click on the quest and then go down to optional quest, you'll notice that the exact same monster that you defeated shows up there. Here's a fun little trick and an example of how this works. If you have defeated Ray Dow in your main story, if you go to Alma, you'll see the optional Ray Dow quest there right away. And if you click on it, you'll notice that it's always going to be an inclemency with a thunderstorm happening in the Windward Plains, and you'll always will be able to defeat Ray Dow in the same condition. These optional quests will lock in a monster in a specific season and a specific time under the exact same conditions, including all the extra monsters that spawn around them. You can use these optional quests to farm materials of certain monsters while you are in the early game, as this is a non-stop repeat way of doing it, without you having to wait for them to spawn. Now, there are two big features that you unlock after defeating the Alpha Doshaguma in your story. The first big one is going to be sacred customization, which you can unlock by talking to this girl right over here in Kunafa Village. From here, you'll get a bunch of different options to play around with your sacred. One of my favorite things to do was transform my sacred into a chocobo from Final Fantasy, because the game knows what they're doing. They made it so you can actually do that. Let me know down in the comments what you turned your sacred into. The second most important feature in the game that you unlock after Alpha Doshaguma is going to be trading. While this may seem like whatever at first, trading is extremely important because you're going to be able to get very good items in the game. And if you don't notice it in the early game, you'll notice it once you're hit high rank. However, the early game items that are extremely important are going to be additional ingredients. Additional ingredients are what's going to allow your meals that you grill to go on for an extra 20 minutes on top of the 30-minute ration you have. And you'll unlock important items like Kunafa cheese, which provide their own skill that you can have in your meal. By the way, if you're curious about meals, I have a whole entire video talking about meals, but overall, every single trader in all the villages will have their specific additional ingredients. And here's a quick pro tip. The items that these villagers are looking for aren't this crazy mystery. In fact, if you open up your mini map and go down to the gatherable items, they usually end up being the question mark items that are going to be right there on your map per the specific region. So now you know the trick and you don't have to freak out about where to find what they need. Just be sure to constantly check what they have in their inventory, as it does rotate as a new day happens. If you happen to be in high rank, you can go through all these traders right at any base camp by talking to Nada. Let's talk about fishing specifically in the game. You're already given a fishing rod at the start of the game, but if you pay attention, your fishing rod actually can have specific baits that attract specific fish. Now, in the Scarlet Forest, once you get access to that base camp, you'll be able to talk to an NPC named Kanya, who is actually going to have this entire side mission quest line. As you start each one of her side missions, she gives you a different bait that attracts a different fish. Eventually, you're going to work your way up to a certain point where she gives you this crazy bait that gets this giant fish, and this giant tuna fish is going to have the ability to drop a ton of materials. It's really cool, so don't skip out on this fishing quest line. I also wanted to let you know that you can catch fish with just a net, but in order to complete these side missions, you're going to have to do it with the fishing rod. All right, now you know. This unlock is completely optional, and all it requires you to do is just hit that subscribe button and like button. All right, let's move on. After you defeat the apex predator of the oil well basin, New Udra, you're going to get unlocks for even more crazy stuff. If you talk to Gemma at the base camp in the oil well basin, you're going to be able to unlock something known as talismans, which basically act as another piece of equipment for yourself. Now, please don't ignore these talismans, as they provide more skills and benefits to you as you are hunting in the early game. There's various talismans, such as ones that boost your defense or give you resistance against certain elements, and always check back with Gemma every time you defeat a new monster and get different parts, because different parts that you get unlock different armors, different weapons, and of course, what we're talking about, different talismans. And while we're speaking about armor, you can actually head over to the forge in the oil well basin after completing this, where you'll talk to this specific NPC right over here, who's going to have two options for you to either forge armor spheres or to get festival shares. Let me first talk to you about festival shares. Festival shares are certain materials that you get that you should always come back and collect as much as you can as days pass by, because that's how they stock up. And these festival shares will later be used to upgrade something known as an Ardian weapon, which is an end game mechanic. But the point is, stock up on these materials now, so when you hit that point where you unlock this specific weapon, you'll have the materials to start upgrading it. Now let's talk about armor spheres, which is not too complicated to understand. Armor spheres are going to increase the level of the specific gear you are wearing, and by increasing the level of the gear you are wearing, you are only increasing the defense, which means you can take more hits from a specific monster without dying in one shot. That is why you always want to increase your defense, and don't feel the need to be a hoarder with these armor spheres. These cheap armor spheres are meant to be used on cheap armor. You get better ones later in the post game, and you're going to need higher tier ones to upgrade the higher ones anyway, so use them to upgrade your defense. If you have a bunch of leftover materials from maybe a monster you've finished up already, you made all the armor, you made all the weapons, you can just chuck that into the forge and get some points for them, and those points will unlock that armor sphere. Pretty simple. Now, while you unlock every single map in the game, you need to keep in mind that the provision stockpile will get more items as you unlock different areas, so make sure to always check back there and get the specific items you may need. But one of the biggest features you unlock in the early game is going to be known as the melting pot. You'll know you've reached that point because you'll arrive in a place known as Suja, and what you have to do is talk to this specific NPC, where you will then get the notification that you have unlocked Wyvern Medling. So what exactly is Wyvern Medling? Well, Wyvern Medling is simple. When you click on it, you're going to get the option to either get a mystery orb via the sword, which are going to be jewels that have their own skills that you can add onto weapons that have the specific blank items stating that they have a slot in it. Or you'll be able to get a mystery orb for the armor, and you'll know that because your armor will also have these symbols stating that they have slots in it to give you specific skills. Now, you could think of this melding system as an RNG gambling kind of mechanic, where you click on the mystery orb and you'll be able to trade in some of the festival shares that you've gotten earlier to get these items. And festival shares, by the way, give you a lot of points, so you'll be able to get a lot of melding via the festival shares if that's something you want to do. Or if you get a bunch of jewels in your game that are level 1 and not that great, you could just turn those in for points and recycle them, especially if those jewels are not something you want on your build. Just make sure to read up on the skills before you get rid of them. That way you don't regret getting rid of the level 1 jewels, but at this point you're progressing through the game and you'll be getting jewels a lot. Now, the next feature is a really interesting one and only takes place at a specific time. In the Plenty at nighttime, if you go to the Woodwood hideout, you'll notice that there are a bunch of exclamation points happening on a rooftop of that area. If you go up and climb up the vines here, some of them will give you free items. Some of them will want to trade a little cheap item for another item, but then there is one person you talk to, the one in charge of the cookout, who you interact with, who is going to list out items that you can give to them that will give you a result of specific items. For example, if I give a bunch of meat to this Woodwood, he'll give me back some rations and give me back some charred lizard tail. Interesting stuff here. These Woodwoods, as you progress later on into high rank, are also going to want specific monster tails. So if you start to give them a bunch of stuff, you'll get cool immunizers, stamina potions, just crazy stuff, but it's a way of farming these specific materials. So check this out and let me know the results you get from this. Now that you know about all the early unlocks, you should check out this video right over here. It's going to help you a lot. Seriously, click on it.